Mind the culture.
Mind your
Culture
culture.
in
My
your
culture.
mind.
Culture in
Culture
mind.
and mind.
This is the podcast for the culture.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Mind Culture Podcast. Today we have Inge Gappmaier, an upcoming emerging choreographer in Vienna. We're gonna talk about the new bodies after pandemic, about the responsibility of dance, about how do you even begin with choreography, what is choreography, how do you teach and learn choreography. This podcast is supported by BMKOS Austria, as well as a part of Viral Vision's European Network Erasmus Plus project. We are today in a wonderful space of Ankersaal. This is an old bread factory that has been turned into a cultural center in Vienna. There's a lot of interesting events happening here, except at the moment we have lockdown, but normally there is a lot of events. This space is the biggest performance space they have here. It can be rented out. For more information, you have to go to the website. We are very happy to be supported by the space and to be able to record here. Yeah, so let's go into the conversation. Inge Gappmaier, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
My first question would be to you. What is Inge Gappmaier doing at the moment? So what are you busy with? And maybe tell me how you went from the last thing that you did to the situation in which you're at the moment.
Well, I'm in the very good situation now of having a research autumn. So I had a very intense time during the last 1.5 years. And now I got a scholarship last year, which I didn't have time for. So now I'm working on projects, rethinking structures, rethinking myself, and developing new projects.
So could you tell me, because you say research scholarship, what is a research? Because I understand you're an artist, you're a choreographer, but let's say I have no idea what artistic research is. Could you tell me a little bit?
Well, I guess it's always different also for people, because everybody has different practices, different ways of working. And in my case, it's a lot of reading, going through the city, thinking what are themes that I want to spend time on diving into. And then when I find themes, so in my case, for example, I got hooked up with feelings, being busy with the role of feelings in our society and the very general question of what is dance, what's the role of dance. And then I start reading, going to the studio. Also, part of it is just, I don't know, in the studio, not only going, okay, I have to this, to do. I'm not good at speaking yet.
Oh, don't worry. You're
We're
very
warming
good.
up. But it's also I don't know, listening, putting on some lecture or also just some music I like at the moment and just see what comes. So trying to train my intuition and how I'm feeling also now, which also tells something about the situation I'm in or the things I'm busy with. And the combination, so in my artistic research, it's really the combination of what my body tells me and what my brain tells me, and what a very big part of research for me is also, besides reading and searching for material which could be curious, it's also talking to people and exchanging and seeing what other people are busy with and what questions are there around and what's going on in the world and so on and so forth. So
how I understand it, how you describe it, and I have the feeling that research is something that you do before you do the actual artistic work. Is it correct, maybe? Or maybe during the process of creating artistic work, you also, of course, do research, but you also do research in order to develop your own specific artistic way. And it's interesting, like that it could be anything. So the art is a beautiful profession where you can actually, it's a specific thing that you do, but it still could be anything that you decide on to do that.
I think that's for me the difference then between research and production. Whereas in research, I'm seeing also what is appearing, what is happening, to which formats also I'm drawn to. So it's not working as a choreographer for me. It's not only working for theater and on stage. And then, like, if I go into production, I decide upon a frame or have a certain goal to reach that, I don't know, I got funding from the theater or something like this. So I know about the format, and then I start putting together the material I already have and see what's developing within that and going into more composition then, I guess.
Yeah, I think research is, I don't know, I love the word research, and I think that it's something that you can never do too much of, I have the feeling, because the more you do it, the deeper your work is, I have the feeling.
Yes.
And it's also like, I have the feeling like I always, in front of my eyes is always the Jean-Michel Basquiat. I always have to think of Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Who is that?
That's one of the famous artists of something called like Neoexpressionism. It's the times of Andy Warhol also, a little bit. And it was a beautiful thing about him. It was that he was basically taking the reality around him and transforming it into a certain kind of artistic work. So it's an artist as seen as some kind of medium for, you know, changing to extract from the reality certain aspect and transform it into something that is digestible on maybe different levels. So I have the feeling that artistic research is maybe a little bit more conscious way of doing it, perhaps.
Maybe, yeah.
But I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Doing what? Doing art?
Yes.
Well, I think without any research, you cannot do
anything,
no? I mean, you always think about things, and even if it's like, okay, I put this from here to there, like it's not a basic reaction or something. So I guess it's an action where you think about things. But I guess what is also, or what I just thought about when you talked about you cannot do enough research, I think also that yes, and at the same time there is also like, it's so easy also to have just small articulations. So I think a lot of people are also blocked in, I have to finish a research before I do a product called art then. Because I think like sometimes in the studio or just in the process of being in the studio, maybe not while reading, but being in the studio, there's like small articulations which just, so I think it's always depending on the frame then.
So you say you can have little creative outputs along the way.
Totally.
So what are your little creative outputs at the moment? Give me some examples.
I don't, when I'm improvising to a music or writing something, I can claim it's, I can, if I put a frame around it and put it somewhere and say, you can watch it, like if I would just give it free to be watched, I mean, it can be art. I think it's a way of a way of how to decide on how I want to see things.
So because we are very conditioned, I think, as an audience to actually see certain kind of products that are very finished, But of course, in the times in the times of pandemic, in the times also of social media, like there's a lot of those very small expression of dance. And this could be like short videos or I don't know what else. I don't know, videos with descriptions or videos with contexts. But then my question is maybe now, okay, so let's say you put something out there. Does it resonate with people? Can you measure it? Do you care about audience for it already on this stage? Or do you think this is something that could make people's lives better? Or what is your approach to this?
Well, no. At the moment, I'm really into research. So, maybe the conversations I have with people are not only inspiring for me, but also for the person I'm talking to, probably, or the people I start working together or planning to work together. So, but there's nothing yet I can say, hey, I invite you to just watch it. It would be also too fragile for me now, being like I'm still
So you need your
finding
personal
out.
space, of course.
Yeah, or just I need to get to know what I'm busy with and see what's gonna happen from there. But something I'm working at the moment besides like trying to find a new or to work on a new piece which shall happen in a theater. I'm also, for example, working together with a photographer since a long time, and I finally hope to manage that we can present these pictures we created or we're working on.
Oh, that's really interesting. So it's a perfect time of the year to make your own calendar. Just putting it out there.
No.
No.
No, I think the frame also very much defines what value you give to things, or what. Yeah, of course you can make a calendar out of it, but I think it would be more curious to have it in a very big thing, like very
Exhibition.
big, or in a very small book or something. So we're still also searching for the right frame for it, for example.
And then you said feelings. I'm curious, is there something specific about feelings that you at the moment are busy with, or how can an artist relate to feelings is there something special about the way artists relate to feelings comparing to other people? I don't know. Is there some different access that you have to feelings, and what kind of feelings you're actually busy with? I'm curious.
I want to learn more about feelings, because I realized, well, I live like I do, and I was wondering, like, what's my motivation to go to theater? What's my motivation to dance? Why is that important to me? And one thing I realized, because it's about, if I listen to music, I dive into a certain atmosphere and can dive into some feelings, and I don't know, back then when I grew up, I always wanted to study musicals because I grew up with being fascinated by them, or I think it's really these emotions I was fascinated by. I'm glad I stumbled into contemporary dance. But still it came back to me like that for me emotions are very very important, and they make me feel alive. And at the same time, I also see that in our society, I was wondering, like, so where are the feelings? Like, how do we cultivate feelings or emotions? I'm still in the research, trying also to see what's the difference between feelings and emotions. So I'm still in the very beginning. And yeah, the question of what's the role of feelings in our society also, how are they cultivated? I mean, I guess the pandemia like shows also that when I talk to people, it's like I feel like I'm going like waves, being like emotional waves also, like from fear, anger. Like, I mean, we have all these examples in our society of Wutbürger and to just have this Schlagwort. And then also politicians say, well, I also just have feelings and I'm a human person. And it's like, yeah. So when are feelings appropriate and when not, and how? And then it goes further, I guess, to emotional intelligence. And yeah, I think I'm opening worlds, and you tell me if it's not, if it's
No,
going too
I'm
far.
curious because there is, of course, there is the pandemic, and there is, of course, like as you say, like we have definitely there is a feeling of outrage, there is the feeling of fear, anger, um, insecurity. Yes, these are the kind of feelings that are very permanent. But there's, I don't know, the feeling of joy is maybe replaced with very instantaneous dopamine hits. Like it's a lot of I don't know. I have the feeling that I have the feeling that it is changing the way we interact with each other, especially because we have to interact so much through the digital, obviously.
Yeah.
But is it better? Is it worse? I don't know. I have the feeling that again, I'm gonna say this again, that an artist art is such an unconstricted activity that can still very much focus on those very humanistic parts of our existence. So it's not about technology so much, but also about like how you actually perceive yourself and the reality and the fellow human. And I think I believe that this is our responsibility as makers, that we do have to educate the society, or at least those parts of the society that that already forgot. Because I do believe like we are all capable of feeling, but there is so much suppression going on.
Well, I'm not sure about educating,
Uh-huh.
but just giving space maybe, and giving focus to or attention to, like saying, hey.
Yeah, but I think
Things.
when I say educate, maybe it's a wrong word, not like patronizing way
Yeah.
educating, but like how to say, I understand that someone that doesn't express so much
But
in
giving
their
input
life,
somehow or
they might
impulses.
feel inhibited to do so.
Yeah.
And in this way, it is a certain kind of education. It's not a patronizing kind of education, but maybe just to say, hey, it's all right to feel like this, or it's all right to actually take your emotion and take it a little bit further and see what happens and see how your, you know, self-perception helps in the moment where you take it a bit further, because we don't allow ourselves to take it a bit further.
Yeah, or I
Often.
think we're like, I have the feeling like me included, I'm easily overwhelmed by my feelings. I sometimes don't realize how much they guide me and make me do things. So this is where I see also like the dance coming on when you said like the self-perception. Like it's very much also on feeling, sensing myself and realizing how I feel it all, and then what are the different emotions I can be triggered by, and how can I then deal with them? This is what I'm interested. And as you also said, and some philosophers, or in some books I read, there was also the thing that our picture of humans is very much connected to the development of technology or like electronical technologies, so computers. So very much like it's this circle of things that the computer is actually, or technology is, no, wait a second, I'm getting lost.
So we grow up alongside technology, of course.
Well, or it's on the one side, but actually, you know, in artificial intelligence, for example, one tries to rebuild like humans, like robots want to find out how they can walk as smooth as we can do, or think and take decisions like we can do. But what happens is that one says, my head is like, my Festplatte is like, my hard drive is full, or we want to, I don't know, I don't start with the microchips now.
I'm talking about Elon Musk right now.
No, but it's like, so sometimes I think the relation to the body is very much like to an electronic device or an object which shall function like technology shall. And I bring my body to the doctor that it gets repaired, and I bring it to the yoga mat and to the wellness weekend that it works again, and then it shall work. And what I found very interesting in an interview I was just listening to by Eva Ilus, if I say her name right, where she said also that like emotions are very important to take decisions. So it's not that we're only rationally like taking decisions, but without emotion we would not be able to prioritize and see. And so this I find very interesting, and I think to just trace the thing I wanted to say, also what my like this being overwhelmed by emotions, like in my opinion, shows also at the moment in aggression on the one side, and what's the word? Gewalt. Violence, thank you. And in violence, so when people are just not able to control themselves because they're just like full of
because they don't express themselves, I would say.
Also, yeah. Also or because it's like so hard to grasp. And on the other side, but I think on the other side it's also like then depression and withdrawal from things, and this. So that's why I came up with I want to deal with emotions, and like in this new piece I really want to like go through different emotions and put them next to each other. Like it sounds romantic, but it's actually basic also, and it's like it's constant conflicts, you know, on different struggling with, and yeah.
Okay, I'm really curious
and
now.
It makes fun also to be like super dramatic or something.
I would agree on that. Yes, definitely. And it's great that you have some kind of output like that lets you do that. Like it's a genius profession for that you can do pretty much whatever you want. But then there's a lot of caveats where it's like when you have money, when you have time, when you like, of course. But if the conditions are
let's see,
positive, then you can do whatever you want, which is beautiful. Now tell me more about choreography. Actually, I wanted to ask you, and I have this very, very strong question because I started my education. I wanted always to be a ballet dancer, and then I wasn't that good enough, and I went for contemporary dance, and then I discovered, contemporary dance is great because it allows you to do a lot of things like we just described. But then I quickly realized that I am interested in actually creating, so more even than doing. So then I started, learning about choreography. So I didn't go to study choreography. I just went to different people that do this better than me, and then they are really experienced in that. I started talking with them, and also just by doing. But I'm wondering if this is the right approach, because I have no idea actually how one can learn choreography. I know you went to study choreography, so you're now like you know everything. So
No.
my question to you is, what is the thing that you have to know in order to do choreography, and how does one learn it?
I think it's a way of finding your own practice and curiosity, and find out ways how to put these things together. So in my studies, it was the most important thing was to find out what I'm interested in and follow that and give that space and have a space and studios also for sound, for video, workshop space to do.
Yes, but
and no pressure to have you have a showing on that time and things like this. So to answer your question, the first one, what is choreography? For me, there I found a great answer in a book of Alva Noe, writing about the art of human nature. Strange Tools is the title, it's just a subtitle. And he writes that we are organized by dancing. As human beings, or in the world, we are organized by moving through time and space. We organize that. So we are organized by dancing. And he says this beautiful sentence, which made click in my head: choreography puts the fact that we are organized by dancing on display. So it makes the very basic thing of seeing a choreography or something called choreography is that it makes one realize we are organized by moving through time and space, or organizing time and space. And I guess this is what choreography is also for me, to create an atmosphere which is present and works in relation to time and space, and then intentions.
Yeah, but it almost makes me feel like, okay, there's a very broad definition of what dance is, of course, because there's a lot of discussion. Like some people say, okay, there's no music, there's no dancing, but some people say there's no movement, there's no dancing, but some people say, anything can be dancing. And I guess in that definition that you just said, basically the fact that we are decided to sit here for 2 hours means that we are already dancing in a certain way, and that you move your head, you're also dancing in a certain way. And you say that the choreography is a way to give a name to this, or to just to put it on display, you said.
Yeah, or I think then doing a choreography is to make it conscious,
and then once you make it conscious, you can change it, right? Because you make it conscious, so now suddenly you can organize it.
So I wouldn't say we're dancing at the moment.
Okay.
Or not consciously. I mean, we're moving.
Uh-huh.
But I wouldn't say we're dancing.
But then you said the whole society is dancing.
We are, in a way. If you look from outside, it's...
But then we are also dancing.
If one would just cut off the sound, for example, and just watch us, it could be a performance, of course. Uh-huh. Or we are performing a certain...
So you said the act of dancing is about the person who is actually observing it.
Maybe? I don't know.
Sorry, I don't want to put you in the corner.
No,
but
it's great because I think for me it's a really, really interesting question at the moment. It's exactly what is dance, and when I go to dance classes or when I'm teaching, it's very clear somehow. And
it depends what dance class.
It depends on what dance class, of course. And I think people also coming to my dance class are sometimes confused because they don't get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but they get focusing on their body and how they're feeling and how they're shifting weight, and then it goes into I'm offering forms of how to move and to take them and put them in and explore this with their body. So I think dance for me is very much connected also to have to focus on how I'm feeling at the moment, actually. Like, not feel, yeah.
So dance is a form of consciousness. So I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but
no, not
it kind of,
necessarily,
if I
because
hear it-
it's also about transcendence, you know. It's also like to just get lost, but it's just to feel present. It's this word which is not always like the most positive connotated thing.
Excuse me, you just said feel present. How about be present? No, sorry, I just need picking there. But
I think feel present is also like perceiving that I'm. I don't know.
No, but it is always this interesting thing, because especially I would say in Vienna, a wonderful place, there is a lot of tendency to use the word dance to name a lot of things.
Yeah.
Whereas in other European cultures, let's say, or non-European cultures, dance tends to be a little bit more in relationship with the music and an actual, how to say, virtuosic or expressive movement. Whereas there has been cases of certain kind of dance being put on stage which has not been connected with music and has been not very expressive at all, neither virtuosic. So it's always this question, what is dance? And of course, it's a very political question, I would say, because then suddenly if you're within the structure of, funding and what gets funded, what has meaning, what has no meaning, what is valuable for the culture, what is not valuable, then you suddenly have the struggle, okay. But they are not doing dance, or but we are doing dance. It's this.
Or are they? Like,
exactly.
I think, yeah. I think it's like I said, it's a little bit on the perspective, because of course if I call something dance and then it's like one person just standing, I think of things differently and think about dance maybe, and where does dance start? It's like if I would say this cup of glass, I call it pool.
Yeah, that's a bit
So
off.
so it's I think this is how art also works. It's like claiming something, and by that putting things into question, and like to open a space in between, and then it's like,
I mean, if you think about it, you just make a blob of paint on a piece of material, and you just put it on the wall, and by your act of putting it on the wall, it becomes this beautiful thing in the space suddenly. So you could also argue that the same thing can happen to the body and the movement and everything.
yeah.
But I want to come back to the choreography, because you said I was giving enough time and I was searching for what I am interested in. That doesn't sound like enough. Like there must be some more that you need to actually do choreography, because like I know what I like. I like computers, for example, let's say, or I like cameras, or I like to play volleyball.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make me a choreographer. So what is
No,
there
no,
more
I
that you
think,
have to learn to do this?
I think it's not on objects. Like I like, or some people work like this. For me, it's on what are the questions I'm busy with, and then I struggle with things. So I don't have a solution for things, and it's not like, oh, I like this. So, I mean, sometimes it's good also in decision making to just be like, I like it. It feels good. Okay, why does it feel good? So I'm continuing questioning things, and by that taking decisions and filtering out, and maybe ending up with some weird scores I make for myself in order to play. Ta-ta.
Could you tell me a little bit more about the weird scores? Because like I still think that there is what I want to do, and then there is how I do it, of course, because like I know I want to make a piece about 2 glasses of water, but what does it mean? What can I do with those glasses of water? This is a very big question. Like how do I turn those 2 glasses of water into actual choreographic piece? For me, like as I see choreography, but maybe I'm probably completely wrong. But the way I see it is not so much even about what, but it's about like actually how do you take this 2 glasses of water and turn it into an expression of art. So for me, like the transfer, the question of transfer in choreography, that question of the idea becoming, an artistic product. I think this is, for me, like the way I would see choreography, this is where the most of the choreography is, because this is where the tools are. Like, and I think you gotta create your own tools. So for me, it almost sounds like, okay, like if you just go to a study and just have enough space to think about what you wanna do, but then okay, you know what you wanna do, but how you gonna do it is like way more important. So I'm wondering, like, if you've been learning this, or if it's like a work in progress, or how you're developing, your own unique ways to make this transfer. That would be interesting for me.
Yeah, I think for me it's also to stay in the how. Because it is then what it is, and I try to be surprised also what's happening. So, for example, the stage design for the final piece of my studies, I was busy with games and gamification. So when game is made a tool in order to make people productive. So I wanted to have a game, the stage design as a game field. And then I wanted to have like white lines on the floor. I was wondering, how can I make these white stripes? Okay, I can have like what are the words? Like Schnüre.
Strings.
But then I thought, well, but then people could fall over. It's dangerous. So I was having a walk with a dear colleague, and we were talking about my problem of being like, how can I do it? And then we came up with elastic strings. And then we placed them there. And then another colleague said, well, you can put them, how can you put them on the floor? And he said, how about magnets? So we put them on the floor with magnets. And then suddenly we realized, well, these elastic strings, if we lift them, wow, like this is crazy. Like how wow.
Yeah.
So, from this one idea, talking to people, being curious on how to do things, things appear. And then it's like, okay, either I just say, I just wanted it to have plain, then this is a decision, or is it, wow, that's cool, okay, let's deal with what is here now. And I think this is also something very important and very basic, what I learned in my got to learn in my studies, is using what is there, like not staying in the I don't have, I would love to have. I mean, it's important to dream and work on things to get them, but it's also, okay, what do I have? I have my body, I have this glass of water, and I don't know. You can start playing then.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the dreaming of big things has its own benefits. I would say whenever I dream of big things, I get very happy, because this is, like a life hack. When you just, imagine yourself in a better place, then it makes you just happy just by imagining it.
Yeah.
But I do think like that doing choreography is very much working with the reality, especially with contemporary dance, which is very poor art form. Actually, it's not opera, it's not film, it's not even visual arts. So it's a very kind of niche, underground almost. Poor art, although in Vienna, of course, we have the big names, we have the big space where big people come, but most of us people are not big people, so we're still rather on the poor side of things. So it's really good to work with those limitations. I find it always very creative, actually.
Yes. I wanted to still answer your question. I realize I'm always going somewhere and not answering your questions.
That is not my problem. That's a problem of our listeners.
Okay.
I really hope they're not gonna mind. Please, if you listen to this on YouTube, please do not forget to click the like and subscribe. to our wonderful podcast. This is the only way we can grow.
Cool,
But
yeah.
let's go back to our
Yeah.
conversation.
Choreography, big. How? I think so. The how is very much like exactly. It's defined which space I have, which material I decide on using, and then what questions guide me through, and what situations I wanna. Also, in which atmosphere I wanna work. So, for me, it's always very much on like being with the people and being curious together. So I think everybody develops his and her methods, and this is ground laying. And I think your question is very much also like how to work with movement and dance, maybe.
I think this is the most important thing about, choreography,
Yeah.
right? I mean, let's say that's the most basic foundational thing of
Yeah.
dance, the way I see
Yeah.
it. This is the movement
Yeah.
and the body. But I'm wondering, not to criticize anything or just to judge anything, but I'm wondering, okay, you went to study choreography in a visual arts department, right? No.
No.
In the
Theater.
theater
Applied
department.
theater department.
Applied theater department, so not a
Yeah.
dance department.
Connected with the dance department.
But my question is like, have you learned how to work with the body? Like, have you been told how to work with the body, or have you been told how to find ways of how to work with the body?
Well, that I learned in my dance studies, in contemporary dance pedagogy at the MOOC in Vienna and at the DOC in Stockholm, which was very influential for how I work and think the body. But yes, in my studies for choreography and performance, which is a connection of different disciplines coming from dance, from like theater, or also from my colleagues, like people came from very different backgrounds, but what united us was the curiosity on the body, and what's is role, how to think the body. And so I think also when you see through dance history, when you talked about expression also before, and I mean, there was this freeing from dance also only being like ballet or waltz or like very codified, going into, well, what else can the body do and feel, and is it really the form which communicates, or is it more an intuition also, and how can the body be heavy, and so on and so forth. So in the modern dance, where there's like other dance techniques developed besides ballet and in our field at least, and then there was postmodern dance, who said, well, is dance only on stage, and how is like everyday life, where is dance happening in everyday life, and where does it start? And what we see now, I think, in contemporary dance is that there's so many different approaches to the body. So in a contemporary dance education, you know that, but maybe not everybody knows that.
Yeah, please tell, explain.
It's like there is a lot of different approaches, like you do yoga in your contemporary dance education, or we did it, or Pilates, or body mind centering, or you do capoeira or other martial art forms, or and these all things are valid. There's no right or wrong. It's about finding out how the body can move at all. How can it move maybe in a healthy way, or how can I like really differentiate and make something very weird out of it also. And
can you elaborate on differentiate and make something very weird out of it?
What
can you elaborate on that?
No, like this goes back to, I also thought just you asked me about the weird score, which is a very example is like in one of my last pieces, I was busy with having the arms like this, and it's for me on the one side a gesture of like closing off, and being like this, and then I realized, okay, why don't I put the score to myself to explore? Okay, if I stay with that, what can I do? If I stay with that for a long time, okay, where does it go? Can I put my leg in? Okay, so what's happening now? How can I move with that? No, then it's getting weird, but it's also interesting maybe, or playful. And how do I get out of it? I can do this. Okay, what's happening?
So that there is the emotional thing that happens once you also let go, so that you can also transform this.
Yeah, I think emotions are happening with that, yes. But it's also allowing yourself to play and to be a bit weird and to just be curious. And maybe dance is a little bit about forgetting about time and space. And choreography is thinking about time and space.
Whoa.
And organizing it. I don't know.
Okay. Good. No, I'm still like, for myself, I'm still having to figure out like, who would I have learned? Have I gotten? Have I decided to go to study?
Yeah.
Because all of this makes sense on a certain level to me, but I'm just wondering, like, okay, this is still like something that I am conscious of. So did I have to study for it? Like, because I didn't study. Like, I went to, I just went, I'm just gonna do this, because I don't think choreography, as I see it, I don't like in a certain way. I don't think, because my experience with studies was like always learning things that were super outdated, super long time ago kind of things, and I thought like, if I'm now gonna learn about choreography from like 15 years ago, then I'm gonna just kill myself. So that was my approach. So I realized, okay, maybe there's a better way. Just talk with people who know. Like, that was my way. Like, I had like few mentors. I was talking with people. I was like, spending some more time with those people. I learned a lot talking with Rui Horta, with Martin Sonderkamp, very wonderful, and some others, and I just somehow kind of just keep on doing works. And then I, like, one of the things, because I know how important it is to have your own physical signature practice also, and like your own, the own approach, like you say, approach to the body. I still think that there is a big difference between the approach, because there's a fraction in choreography, especially in Vienna, that is very focused on the approach to the body, and then there is also, you can think of it as an approach to the movement. I have the feeling that those two are very different. So if you either think of the body or you think of the movement, like you can really differentiate between those two. Of course, you, in the end, like as a choreographer, you have to think of both, but you might be leaning in one or the other direction. So I found myself leaning direction movement. So in the end, I had to somehow decided that I want to expand my movement vocabulary. So then I decided to learn breakdance. I said yoga, Pilates. I decided for urban dance as a way to expand the vocabulary.
I mean, it's a way of, then it's like, it sounds for me very technical.
Yes. Tell me.
And the question is like, where does these techniques come from? Why and for what and how do you do it? Or what do they reproduce also? So it's kind of a language you're deciding upon. And how to create one's own language, I think is, or for me, it's not so much about a dance style, but it's, what is the body for me at the moment, or in this piece I'm busy with? So in relation to emotions, I move very differently, or maybe take a different aesthetic, like a different way of how to think and place the body than if I would work on, I don't know, emotions are everywhere. This is my problem at the moment. No, but
It's fine. It's
no, but
beautiful.
it's like, I mean, it's also what I think dance can very well work on, or art is. Anyways, it's about aesthetics, about perception, and how it affects me. What it makes me curious about. But for example, the solo I was working on, which had this thing included, it was more on the on a form also, being like how to think the body, or the basic theme was like being enclosed in oneself. I mean, the pandemic made that even more present, that theme, but it was already like, I think, through social media and so on, and working with technology and being very busy and productive constantly, and in the best way in competition with each other, one can get quite lonesome. So I was wondering what is it if I'm really alone? And then I come up with scores, being like how if I cannot grasp anything anymore and don't move anything. So I started to play with the body as an object somehow, and how differently it can move. Whereas if I go more working together with music, for example, if this is one of my interests and triggers on how I work or with what I work, then something else comes out.
Yes.
So for me, it's not so much on finding my own. It comes with that, but questioning the way of how I approach the body. How do I think the body? Do I want to? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very how to say. I have the feeling that there is I mean, from my experience, which is not very much, but is of certain kind, there is a big difference between actually the contemporary way of thinking choreography, in my own personal opinion, which I think is a way of thinking of how, like you say, like, okay, I have this idea. How do I make this idea? I have this idea. How do I transform it into a piece? Versus the market, which expects you as a maker to follow a pattern, to follow a one recognizable way of how. So let's say, instead of making a, let's say it's not very useful to make another piece that is gonna be completely different than the piece before, because this gonna throw the curators and other people of decision making off. And if you have a different experience, I'm really glad you do. But my experience has always been, oh, those pieces are completely different. I don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? From the perspective of a curator.
Yeah. I don't have that experience yet, but I think what immediately comes to my head, and I think also something I learned, is staying true to yourself. I mean, it's yeah, we have heard that sentence very often, but I think it's true, or I see that as my responsibility as an artist also. I'm free from the market, or this is what I'm claiming for. Art is not for being in competition with something, or that's at least not my approach to it or my understanding of art and working as an artist. It shall really be, I really, not working blindly and being like, I do what I want, but considering what's happening in the world, how does it affect me, and then creating things I invite people to discuss with me about. And if I realize, for example, in my work, I'm constantly busy with similar things, or themes are coming back and coming back and coming back. And my approach is actually to make works which are very different to each other. Like, this is the challenge I want to do, because my curiosity is on how differently can you see and work with the body. And also something, of course, like one thing is the motivation and the curiosity, what one wants to do. But of course, like then working in theater and so on, you need to know certain things of composition and of I don't know, also light design and sound design and how things work. Like this is something you train, and maybe you don't need to study for that, but it's about seeing other pieces and just being curious in how. So of course it's also a very pragmatic side also of how to structure rehearsals and things like this. But you learn it on the way, I think.
Speaking of learning and teaching, maybe, I know that you have an experience with young dancers now, coaching,
yes.
coaching new upcoming choreographers.
Yeah.
So I wonder, what is your approach to that? Did you prepare for it, or like, do you have a certain mission in it, or what do you do with those people?
Well, I think I'm prepared for it, yes. Being like, okay, what was important for me when I started? Or what is still questions I'm busy with? Or what are things I learned on the way, which are very important? And I can just share my curiosities or my tools which were helpful for me. And the most important thing is to for me is that to realize what am I curious in, and if it's something very weird, maybe like even if it's like in fashion or not in fashion, just finding out why am I curious in, what does it do. And I think.
But do you say from your perspective or from perspective of your mentee? Because for like just sorry to interrupt you, just my experience has always been with mentoring or coaching is that it's very difficult to not impose your own worldviews and your own ideas on those people that you want to help, because this is maybe the whole challenge here.
Yeah.
So you want them to be themselves.
Yes. And this is why I start with and quoted. So yesterday we had our first session, and one text which was most inspiring for me was a text of Jacques Rossier, French philosopher, who wrote about the ignorant schoolmaster. And this text was very influential for me on seeing how I look at other works, how I look at my own work, and how I teach. How I
Can
think
you tell a little
teaching.
bit more about this text?
Yes, it's so it's about the schoolmaster who was supposed. I hope I bring it right, but this is my extraction out of the text and what was helpful for me. So maybe I confuse things if someone knows this very well. But it's a teacher who's supposed to teach people French. They are Flemish, and he did not know French. So they decided upon taking a book which had like French and Flemish on the other side. And then they went through the book. So he understood himself as a moderator through everybody. So the basic idea is everybody is intelligent. It's also he also wrote this very famous book, The Emancipated Spectator, which is like assuming everybody is intelligent. Everybody has a knowledge of the world and of her world she was living in, or is living in. And this is all valuable, even though like it doesn't matter. So if we take this glass, it's not the best example because it looks very similar, but it's like, so he placed the material, in this case it was the book, but it can be anything, in the middle, and then it was about telling what everybody sees, and with that we get a more complete picture of the thing. So this is also how I like to see art, like everybody sees everything different, or next thing coming in my head, so I stay with that. and it's valuable. Like for me, it's more important. Like I realize the reflection. Maybe someone else sees the little bubble. Someone else sees through the glass the door, and
So the communication, sharing, experience, feedback, very important.
yes, or see, like, this is how I see it. How do you see it? So then you get a bigger picture of an idea of things, and then you with it this you can learn.
Yeah, that's very, very useful tool, definitely. Like whenever I myself create, I always try to have as many sessions with inviting people to the
Yeah.
studio as possible. So
Yeah.
like as many people can look at it, because you can get so easily lost
Yeah.
and out of the world.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
So with the mentoring, I think it's
Yeah.
very important to just share this. Everything is valuable, and if it's like, or when watching, like finding out what you're curious in, maybe, yeah.
yeah, if you like, I think if you can teach people how to be curious, I think you will be master teacher.
Yeah, and
This is-
trust in oneself, and of course be like continuing questioning.
Okay, so let's go to the experience with the audience. And I'm wondering, first of all, can you tell me a little bit about your recent project with the cameras and how did you come up to this idea? Because maybe let's start from the fact that now certain things become digital, and how you had a certain approach to it. And then my second question is like, how did the new audience, how did you gain new audience? How does new audience react to the work? And basically, what was your experience of it? So first tell me about the work, and then how the audience reacted.
Yeah, so the work you're referring to is called Gate, and it had premiere. It had a real premiere in May 2021. So it was just when the theaters opened in Kosmos Theater in Vienna, together with the support of Brut and the city of Vienna. The first time I got some funding, and my idea was to place people on three sides of the stage. So I took up the idea from my final piece from my master's, to have a six-sided form and have people on three sides of the stage. So not to have the one side stage, one side audience, frontal situation, but the more
triangle.
Yeah, they created a triangle, yes. So, and the stage is in the middle. And with the premiere, we could not do it because of COVID and everything. It was more easy to just have people on one side. And it changed completely the perspective on the piece. So I also applied for funding from the Bund, BM Bund, to transfer the performance into video work. And there I wanted to have this three sides. And I have this great person I'm working together with, Robert Lessig, who can do anything I'm asking him, so to say, like on a technical side.
Brilliant.
Which is great. And I asked him, would it be possible if people can change the perspective? And he said, okay, I think about it. Yes, we can do it. So he programmed something, and we were filming the performance from three sides and from above. And so now one can watch the performance, but with the 1, 2, 3, 4 can switch the camera perspective. Yeah. So
That's the piece. That's the piece.
Yes.
Would be even more nice if they can zoom in and move in the cameras, but that's another level, of course.
Well, yeah. Then you need to. I think you need to do it live then, or I have. I don't know how this works.
Yeah, this technology thing is really.
Yeah.
But it's nice. You can do live switching. It's basically what Marcin is doing right now, except hi there, except with from the perspective of the audience, from the website, I guess.
Right. So you can do your own cut, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me it's very important to have a freedom or to allow the spectator to change perspectives also.
Because normally when you have a video recording, you have very fixed where the camera goes, even if it changes, like it's a imposed.
Yeah. It's pre-decided
exactly.
on. Yeah.
Okay, and then, so the audience, they go to the website, they see your performance, and what is the feedback? What is the reaction?
That's a little bit the problem with the digital presentations. You hardly get feedback.
Okay.
So it's you.
But you for sure had some friends that went to see.
Well, I got some emails and so on, so this was very nice. And with that piece, we really had a premiere. What's the feedback? It was, for example, wow, it felt so nice, or I really felt like I want to move again, or people see things very differently. Somebody saw a real story and tells me about this story, what they saw, which is awesome because I'm very bad at storytelling. And or a feedback I get quite often is, wow, I had so many thoughts. I thought so much. And this tells me like, yes, I'm also thinking a lot in my working processes. So the way how one works, it somehow translates. I don't know how it works, but it's things are there and coming back.
And could you maybe tell me, because you say that there is this challenge with the digital, and now of course we know this challenge is like, it's different watching a performance live, where you actually see people working for you in front of your eyes, whereas like you kind of have to assume that they are working for you in front of your eyes, but they're behind the screen, so it's a bit different. So I'm wondering, this, because on one side it's an opportunity. Yeah, it's an opportunity. It's like, okay, we can develop ourselves, we can develop our art form, we can create something new. But on the other side, we're losing the most the most important part of it, which is like the maybe it's just the connection with the audience.
I think this is the challenge I thought about, being okay, if I do a digital production, how can it not only be a documentation of a piece which is happening in the theater, and I think like, okay, that's for that, but how can I create for a different format? So it's a different art form. Then in the end you do a video production.
So it's not dance anymore, in a way.
Of course it is dance, because that's my chosen articulation. It's like, I'm not painting. I work with the body on stage and with dance. And so how to make it approachable for an audience? How can I translate it into a screen piece?
This is a big question, because also like because you mentioned like you don't know how people react. You don't feel the people, how they react. So speaking of feelings again, I was wondering if there are ways. I mean, of course, with like some example of it is like all this Instagram live, for example, or Facebook live, or any kind of live stream where you have a live commentary, like a YouTube live as well. That's just one way of seeing when the people actually react. But I'm wondering, like, from my perspective as a creative, I always ask myself, like, how can I increase the level of interaction with my audience? Because in the end, I think this is one of the most important thing, to know that actually you're not just doing it for yourself, but you're kind of doing it for the whole community.
Yeah. But I also want them to freely decide how they react or how they interact.
So you say that
I
if you
see.
give them a special way to react, that would be also very imposing.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your curiosity and on people's curiosity. Like, I'm someone with interactive performances. I'm always like, I just want to feel free and not play a role. I mean, if I'm told I go somewhere, I have to play a role, then it's something else. But I want to be taken serious as an audience.
Yeah, but maybe I think I understand what you mean with like the okay, now everyone stand up and clap your hands.
Yeah.
No, that's something else. But I'm wondering, you know, with just leaving a comment, some kind of encouragement during the show. That doesn't cost much. Like it's much less to ask from the people than just I just don't know. It's just one way.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have to say, I did not have too many shows yet in my life.
Okay.
And maybe it's not more or less feedback than when being live, because live you get applause and then you maybe talk a little bit after.
No, but live you get the feeling. You
Of course,
feel the
yes.
audience. You like
Yeah,
know
totally.
when they are
It's
there.
crazy.
Yes.
Like when we did I mean, it was differently with Gate, where we were 4 people on stage, and we were rehearsing with that. So we were, we held each other, but it would change completely if people are there. And with the solo I did, I really felt like, wow. When rehearsing, you also don't have a lot of people in the space, but you still somehow imagine them to be there. So I really, when we did the filming of Protect, which is the solo, Protect, There Is No Wind in Geometrical Worlds is the title. I told myself I have to imagine people sitting there, and it was so hard. So as a performer dancing for camera, I guess it's like for, like people say film acting, and acting on stage is very different. I really feel that now, like got this experience now. And so maybe this is also, it's not comparable too much. And the question is of, when you're curious in working with video and digital performances, you have different tools, and maybe performing in front of the camera, one needs to find different strategies of how to do it and to feel well with them. But of course it gives you super cool other opportunities. And for example, with having the performance digitally, people from the countryside where I grew up could just see it, and they didn't need to come to Vienna. So maybe they would not have seen it. And so it was even more open, actually. So I think a lot more people saw these pieces now than they would have if it would have been only live, which is awesome, because a lot of people did know what I'm doing, actually. And I was like, so Inge, what are you doing? And will you come to our village to see? And there is not so many theater I can play yet.
Yeah, this is really interesting. It's like you almost think like the best way, can you make it hybrid? Like, can you make it live for people who can come, and digital for people who cannot? And I think this is maybe the future even. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure like
It depends on what you decide you want to do.
Yeah. Okay. I see. Another thing, question. Contemporary dance. Very niche. Very, how to say, sometimes I would even say elitist, but doesn't always apply to all kinds of contemporary dance, because we also have very exciting contemporary dance, which is very kind of close to people. But I'm wondering how do you, let's say you had an X amount of people coming to your show. How do you double it? How do you triple it? how do you make it? If you imagine now, I want to have 10 times more people coming to see my show, what would you do?
I think that's not that's what the venues are for.
Yes, but imagine the venues is out of the picture.
Well, if I want to make a piece which happens on a very big stage where a lot of audience can come, then it needs different preconditions, like a contact with, or I also would need to work very differently. And yeah.
No, I'm just wondering, because hypothetically, maybe it's not about having a bigger venue, but maybe it's just about like being able to reach more people. Because this is a question that I ask myself, like, okay, contemporary dance has so many great values. Like it really brings people closer to their own bodies, to their own feelings. It allows them to maybe for some kind of extra expression that they didn't think of it. Like maybe it allows them to think a little bit more abstractly about the reality that surrounds them. So it is important values and mission that contemporary dance carries. So my question is like, okay, so I'm a missionary in a way, like I'm a choreographer. I'm trying to share this with the world. So, but there are only 15 people coming to my show, or maybe 150. How I become a little bit more how can I make my
Attract more people.
impact bigger?
Yeah. Well, I think it's this question of measurement and value. And I think if I have a show with 3 people and they're very touched by that, maybe that's even a bigger value than having like 50 people and they're like, okay, that was something. So I don't know. I like to talk about what I'm doing. This is why we talk since a long time, such a long time. I like to, I'm also teaching, for example. So I love sharing my thoughts on the body with people, not only from stage, because that's different thoughts included, but really like in the studio and encountering people's physical experiences, movement-wise. And I try to also ask friends to come to see shows together. So I think it's very like, how should I, if I don't manage to bring my best friend to a show, how should I bring the grandmother of someone else to a show?
Exactly.
So, or people I don't know to a show. So I think this is my approach on making people being interested in what it is.
So basically, by them coming with you to another show, you can also make them familiarize them with the art in itself, right?
Yeah. But there's also people who don't like it.
Yeah, for sure.
And
there are also artists who don't like to come to see art. That's also absolutely fine.
Totally. So
but I think there is this value that I think we need to, I believe that we need to share with the world, which is like, we have been studying and busy with this material of the body for a very long time, and I do believe that it would be very selfish of us to just keep it to ourselves in a way.
Yeah, or to I'm working on things in order to show them also, or them to be seen. And but of course people are very busy also and have maybe something completely else. So I think in art it's also always a danger, like everywhere, to just stay in one's bubble. So this is, for example, why teaching, I love it so much, because it confronts me a lot with other people's reality. Like they don't they haven't seen this and this and this choreographer, and they haven't, like, in one of the last sessions I had, or teaching lessons I had, lessons sound weird, we were really talking about the hip joint, and I brought the picture of the anatomy of it, and we were talking about the anatomy, and it's like, for me it's so normal that people know how it works anatomically, like roughly at least, but like we were really diving into it, and it's not
it's not obvious.
it's not common
knowledge. Yeah.
knowledge, and I think there it starts. It like, what can I learn from others? Like, I'm also don't know so many things, and what are the steps to make people also maybe be curious in? And I think it's sharing my questions, for example, which are on a healthy body also, and on how one can move freely and feel freely, and what all components are part of the practice I'm doing, and which develops then maybe to an art form. So I think also like tracing, and not only being like, this is art, watch it and think something, but also like inviting and explaining what's the...
Yeah, the reason why I bring it up, because I think this is also a very contemporary question, because it's, I mean, I wouldn't say that the theaters are dying, but you know, with COVID, it's very questionable. So the question, what is in general, what are the next steps here? So that's why I bring it up.
Well,
how do we keep it alive?
I was just looking for tickets for some theater shows. I don't know when this will be presented, but today is the last day before we have the next lockdown. And I thought, well, it will be easy to get tickets, but Burgtheater, for example, is full.
Yeah, there is this thing, yeah.
And this is the thing. People also, it's an established institution. People know a little bit better what they get. They know they will sit on their chair, and they also want to be entertained, maybe. Like, like, this is the really question what I had through summer and still have. Why do I go to theater?
Mm-hmm. Why?
And yes, of course, because of professional things and being inspired by things and so on and so forth. But if I would not be professionally engaged, why do I go to theater? And it's like, yeah, because I want to feel good.
Uh-huh.
I want to... And then the question, okay, what makes me feel good? It's, in my case, for example, being inspired by something. Or I want to feel good. I want to see maybe other people and go there together. I want to have a drink after. I maybe hear very clever thoughts, or like, I want to feel something.
Maybe it changes my life forever.
Yeah. Maybe it gives me a different perspective on things. Maybe it struggles me myself with some things, and or opens up questions I did not know I have, or I should work on. So it, and yeah. So the question of entertainment is.
Yeah, entertainment
is
just
present.
one aspect of it, because you said, like, first you said entertainment, and then you said like all these other things, which I don't know if they are within this category of entertainment. But yes, coming back to I think if all the artists would focus on those questions, we would have a much better experience while going to the theater. I can guarantee that. I have the feeling there is a lot of, let's say, it's been called art for art, or let's say art for art, like art for artists. Basically, there's a lot of this, I don't care about audience, or I'm just doing it because I feel, and it's like very egoistic almost. Like, of course, making choreography or art of any kind is very egoistic because you are doing it, but you should be still considering your audience very much while doing it, I feel, and it's good to at least ask those questions that you just asked.
Yeah. But of course, I think it's really a question of, I mean, the audience is heterogeneous, like, and it's also important to have art for artists.
You think?
Yes,
Okay.
because I mean, there's nerd clubs in every branch. Why don't we have nerd clubs in art? You know, and
No, I know. I think there's definitely should be nerd clubs, but there are so
Yeah.
many nerd clubs. That's what I mean. Like it's almost like there's mostly nerd clubs.
Yeah.
Let's put it like this.
yeah.
No, but I just
But-
think, you know, if
So
if
I
we
think-
wanna grow further, then
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have to somehow open up.
But the question is exactly like what is the goal? What is your? I mean, I had this great talk with my sister in summer, which is like, well, what do you want? Is it for you most important to have like very experimental things, and maybe then you have just 5 people coming, but they are very curious, and you, I don't know, discuss for 10 hours after? Or is it that you want to work on a very big stage and have, I don't know how many people there? Maybe then you need to entertain a little bit more. Or, you know, like use other tools in order to fill this space also. Because, yeah. So, and of course, like the institutions, I think they are, I mean, that's the role of curating, to also to develop a space where people are coming, and you know, there's so many theaters and museums and galleries and so on and so forth. There's so many things you can do in order to encounter with things called art, and there's so many different art forms. So maybe I have a theater which I check first what's on their
Agenda.
schedule, and maybe I feel more attracted to this or that. And so the audience building is also very much part of the institutions.
Yes, of course.
Of course, I need to think of my audience, and then I can also see what institutions, what audience is there, or that's then the role of the curators also being like, I think this would fit there and this would fit there because we have that audience and they could be curious in that. And you know, it's dialogue building and building up and staying in connection, and not always being like super loose and in independent, because you're never independent.
I think if you have 3 people and those 3 people have a massive impact, and they're gonna spread this impact to another 3 people each, and then those another 3 people, then in the end you're gonna, like, with the network effect, you're gonna have a lot of people. But maybe the question is, like, for me, I still gonna be about numbers. Like, yes, important for me, it's important is that doesn't only stay those 3 people, but maybe those 3 people can affect, you know, the whole society. One of those become a president, then yes.
Yeah.
But you know,
I think
it's always about, like, because the values that we have, I think, and the knowledge that we have, the little knowledge that we have, is very important to be shared, especially with the social media and negatively influencing our society.
Of course. No, but I think what I want to say is that I don't know how much time we still have, actually.
We have. Don't worry about time.
But it's different art forms. Working on small stage or on big stage. It's different art forms. If I work with one person, or if I work, not art forms, but it's very different tools used. And if I work with 12 people on a big stage, you work completely different, maybe, or I would work completely different than with 2 people on stage. So the question is, like, you know, in dance, you have these ballet companies where you're working a long time, maybe as a dancer in a company, and then you start choreographing because that's what you learned. Then you can work on a big stage where you can have a lot of audience. But when you're only always in small spaces, it's very hard maybe to do the jump on the big stage. And this is a little bit maybe a problem, or then a question of, like, really like how to work, what to do in order to have the opportunities to work in these conditions.
Yes, I encountered
And I think this is very, very hard, especially in Vienna, where you only have a ballet company and then you have some free companies which work with maybe
4 or 5
ensemble,
people.
maybe not. But there's,
Yeah, this is a big topic on like
so the art form also
choreographic.
is not very present of working with more than 5 people on stage, I would say, in dance.
Yes.
And I think there's an art form missing.
Yes, definitely. Like the company work
Yeah.
for a bigger
And
group
it
of
can be
people
seen
in the context of avant-garde contemporary dance, progressive contemporary dance. Yes, definitely. There's a big problem actually. Like in the Netherlands, where I've been also hanging out quite a bit, they try to establish those programs where actually they take like young choreographers that have the experience, or emerging choreographers that have the experience of, you know, working with a solo or 3 or 4, you know, and then trying to, you know, confront them with actually a bigger group of people. And it's, as you said, it's a very different art form, of course.
Yeah.
Of course it is. I think it's wonderful.
It is. And the question is how to find structures in order to realize these things, because it's very costful to have more than 5 people.
Yeah, this is something we can work in the working group,
Yes.
Wiener Perspektive,
Yeah.
lobbying group for the arts in Vienna and Austria.
Yeah.
We can propose those things to the politicians. And then our next meeting.
Well, I mean, I think there's this project now of Parasol in Tanzquartier, which is a little bit going into this direction of having a bigger group of people working together, which is interesting.
Interesting. Let's watch that. Let's watch
so
how
I
it
think
observes.
things are there's something going on with the approach to dance, and also this dance, as it is also called very often. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it needs very special engagement also, and pre-education, maybe.
Okay. Tell me, just last thing. Yeah. Two things. One thing. Thing number one. If I wanted to do what you do, choreography, if I wanted to become a maker, what should I do? What would be your advice? What should I do? How should I start?
Well, I can just say what I did. I mean, I find myself suddenly in this weird position of getting feedback for applications of myself, being like, well, you're already a little bit more established, and it's like I got the funding for a very first time now. And on the other side, you know, I came out of studies, and sometimes when you come out of studies, you're just like, yeah, I know how things work. I want to work and produce. And then you realize, okay, wow, it's not that easy to get recognized and get funding. So I think it's like taking opportunities where you can, and follow your, trying to make things possible. So I wish that things would be easier, because I don't want to go through these last years again, actually. I mean, they were great things also, but it's a lot of struggle in just maybe now I would think so, do things differently. It's like staying with yourself, communicating honestly. Yeah. And trying to figure out what is it you want to do, being more concrete. And I don't know, like that's still also things, I don't have any perspective at the moment. I just have this research thing. I'm preparing things and I try to know why I want to do what.
I think this is really important because if you feel like if you have multiple ideas going on in different directions at the same time, it's kind of hard to communicate with others. So I think this is maybe in terms of establishing your kind of career or pathway, I think it's really important to keep on, very consistent with one thing that you want to do.
Yeah, or like it can change over time. but
course.
Like trying to be as concrete as possible and realistic and pragmatic and just taking, I think the most important thing is taking oneself's work seriously. I mean, we do, but really like saying, no, this is valid. Why is it valid? Because for me it is important and I think this is important. Like, like analyzing why you do things and staying honest, but also realistic. And because in the end it's about, okay, can I have a space somewhere? Do people have time? And to really take care of conditions. So I think the first thing I did in Vienna was, okay, I want to find out the way how can I get cheap tickets in order to see a lot of shows, and where can I have a space to work. These were the first things.
Great.
And with that you meet people, you find communities, and it's a very long road, but I think it's on staying true and figuring out how. And staying open and also not making up too much hierarchy. Also being aware what artists do. This is why institutions are working.
Yes, of course. Like, it's this is something also nice that we were working on Wiener Perspective a little bit, like that to understand that the institutions only exist because the artist exists in first place. And not that there is an institution and we somehow are the peasants that have to fill them. If we are not there, they wouldn't be there.
And they have different responsibilities. Like then they take care of maybe more of bringing audience and doing marketing and so on. And
Cool. Yeah. Well, then we are at the 38-minute mark. Well, thank you, Inge, for this conversation.
Thank you.
It was wonderful.
For letting me talk.
Please go on the Inge's website to check the gate, right?
Well, there's still 2 performances present. So there's my solo still online, Protect, There's No Wind in Geometrical Worlds, and which is a play and lean back performance, but has also different ways of how we use the camera. And then there's Skate, where you can also just press one button and watch it from one perspective, or there's an edited version and you can change your perspectives. But yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, that was Mind Culture Podcast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our wonderful channel. We try to grow it. We try to affect more people with this wonderful art of contemporary dance. Well, see you there. See you on the next episode.